Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Emma. Welcome to 2023 with me. I haven't posted anything in like a long time, and so that's fun. But I did want to talk about what I want to read in 2023. So I have 13 books here that I want to read in 2023. These are all books that I already own because I'm really trying to focus on tackling my physical TBR because it's just getting out of hand at this point. And there are so many books that are coming out or that I've just heard about that I don't own. And I'm not on a book buying ban, but I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of the fact that I have so many unread books that I probably shouldn't be buying more. I also just watched Passport to Eden's top 12 books to read in 2023, and I just discovered them, so I highly recommend you check it out because a lot of what they want to read seems really interesting. So let's start with a buddy read that I'm currently doing with some friends that I go to school with. That is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. So I'm only at chapter 2 and we're planning on finishing section 1, which is only like 75 pages I think before class starts. This is about a man in his late 20s. He's writing a letter to his mother, and so far it's kind of insane how intense and beautiful it is just from 14 pages. So I'm really excited to keep reading this. Another book that will probably become a buddy read, my friend bought themselves a copy and myself a copy for my birthday, Dead Collections by Isaac Fellman. I remember I've read the back before and it's something about archivists. The cover is really intriguing, and just from my friend buying me a copy, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So yeah, honestly, I don't know much about this, but I trust my friend's judgment. So I'm excited to read this with them as well. Next up is my friend's favorite book, and they've been wanting me to read it for a while now, and I think if I don't read this year, we may no longer be friends. That was a joke, but like kind of serious. So that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I've been wanting to read this for a long time anyways. As far as I'm aware, it's a dark academia book. There's some murder or death. Maybe it's not murder. I don't know. And it's very much based in like the classics and stuff like that. So something that I would definitely be interested in. I love dark academia. Next up is Biblio Death by Andrei Codrescu. I got this through thrift books, and I can't remember where I first heard about it. But I got it through thrift books, and it's actually signed, which is pretty cool. This is nonfiction about like the death of the written word and stuff like that. It seems like a fun nonfic book, just something that I would find very interesting. So next up is one that I've read about a third of already, but I'm going to start from the beginning because it's been so long since I read it, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I loved the first third of this book when I read it, like was enthralled, and I just didn't finish it, and that happens with a lot of books. I'll just get distracted or I'll fall out of reading habits and stuff like that, but I remember absolutely adoring it when I was reading it and thinking it was so cool. So I want to start from the beginning and finally finish reading it because I want to read the rest of the series too. It's such a well-loved book that I feel like I need to read it at this point. And I also just really want to read it. Next up, The Wind's 12 Quarters by Ursula K. Le Guin. She is known as like the queen of sci-fi, or the mother of sci-fi, or one of those things, and this is just a little collection of some of her stories, and I feel like that's a good way for me to kind of get to know her as an author more and discover some of her stories, because I'm not much of a sci-fi reader, but I have found some sci-fi really interesting, and I think this is a good way for me to start that. Next is Smoke and Mirrors by Neil Gaiman. This is also a collection of some of his short stories. Neil Gaiman, my favorite author, he's pretty high up there. And I'm just trying to get through his books. There's a lot of them. I love Neil Gaiman's writing, and I'm excited to read more of it. Next up is one that I got at my local bookstore when I was with some friends, The Stone Reader, Modern Philosophy in 133 Arguments. This is a relatively massive book for me. 775 pages. Yeah, she's a big one. I was never really a fan of philosophy. I mean, like, not that I didn't like it, but it was just kind of like a thing. Until I took a bunch of philosophy classes with this one professor at my school, and he's amazing, and so I just want to know more about it. I think it's a fascinating subject because it is so subjective. Next up, A Woman of No Importance by Sonia Purnell. This is a nonfiction book about Virginia Hall. She was an American spy during World War II, and my grandpa sent this to me, and it just seems like something that I would probably really like. I think World War I and II stories are really interesting, not always when they're right in the war, but like The Imitation Game. Wonderful movie, and it's not really, you don't see a lot of like action other than him creating the enigma, which is super cool. And so I think things like this are really interesting, and I'm excited to read it. Next up is another one that I've read about a third of, and it is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. I've decided I'm gonna go through, reread the beginning, and finally finish this book, because I think one of the reasons I never finished it is that at some point I lost track exactly of what was happening in the story, and this is an insane story. There are so many characters and subplots and storylines that it's a lot, but it's also such a well-loved book, and it's so fun to read the introduction of this too and see how Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett were both like, this was just a random summer project that we didn't think was going to be this big, and yet they sign copies that have been like ripped to shreds from reading. Like at one point I think they said someone brought in like a Ziploc bag of just loose leaf pages. This is about the world ending. It's about Armageddon, and it's about two mythical creatures, mythical beings, an angel, Aziraphale, and a demon, Crowley, who don't want the world to end. They've both been living on Earth, and they both really enjoy it, and they don't want that to come to an end. So they're kind of working together, I guess, to hopefully prevent that from happening. And then there's so many other characters that are involved, and it's really silly. There's so many little like hidden gems and sort of puns, I guess, in it that just make it a dream to read. Next up, Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I've also read some of this, and I also will be starting. I've also already read parts of this, and I also will be starting it from the beginning. From what I've read, which is only like 6 chapters, it's an amazing book. It's super interesting. It's about this book called The Shadow of the Wind, I think. You know, and this kid reads it, and he's like obsessed with it. And it's kind of this like obsession with literature and so many other things that are happening. I mean, I've only read to chapter 6, so like I've really only touched the surface on this one. Ooh, I had a dried carnation in there. A nice little purple one. Very cool. Next up is one that I've never heard anyone talk about, and that is La Petite Mort by Olivia Blake. So this in French is like a euphemism. It means the little death, but it's basically talking about the female orgasm. And I saw this and I was like, that's probably a really interesting book. I don't know if it has anything to do with the title actually though. It's about this girl who inherits a house that lodges all different kinds of monsters in New Orleans. I mean, that just sounds really interesting. It's also super short. The publisher is Which Way Publishing, which I have never heard of. I also really like the art on it. I think it's fun. The next one is Iron Widow by, I think it's Sharon or Kieran J. Zhao. I am not sure about that, so I'm sorry if I butchered it. But this is a high fantasy sci-fi mix, I think. And it's one that I've wanted to read for a while now. Also, just look at the author photo. Is that not absolutely adorable? And I love cows. Cows are my favorite animal. Cows and frogs. So those are the 13 books that I want to read in 2023. Hopefully I will get to all of them. I'm not well known for sticking to TBRs, I think, ever. Let me know if you've read any of them. I would love to hear your thoughts, just no spoilers please. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I will start posting more consistently now, but no promises. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and have an amazing rest of your day.